In this video, we're talking about...
Last time at the first debate, we had millions of people fact-checking.
Our goal is to offer a platform for all ideas.
You know what? I'm about to say it.
So whenever somebody interrupts me, I'll be like, wait, I was talking. Do not interrupt me.
I'd rather not say, but the answer is yes.
Hello, and welcome to Honor of Kings, season number 3, and this happens to be episode number 10. Ken Heidebrecht, and with me is my dear brother and one of the busiest individuals I think I know, Sean Griffin.
Hey, Ken. What's up, man? It's good to do this again this week. I'm glad we had the opportunity. We're digging into a fun book this week.
Yes, we are, and I'm so just thrilled that you're able to take some time out of your busy schedule to actually do this. You got a lot on your plate, brother, and yeah, I just appreciate the fact that you would set some time aside to have this conversation with me, so that viewers out there can take a look at some of these books and watch two brothers in the Messiah discussing them.
Yeah, hopefully that's a blessing to folks that are watching this. Hopefully you guys are getting a lot of out of this, and you're kind of understanding where we're coming from as we evaluate these books in a sense that, you know, we're trying to do them justice, trying to be fair to them, but at the same time, some of these books just don't pass the muster theologically or historically or textually as far as the manuscript history, things like that. So yeah, this is why ultimately we put, I think, Ken, would it be fair to say we put more weight on the actual theology in these books than we do, you know, the history of their manuscripts?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I would say that's a fair
yeah.
assessment. Yep.
I agree with. I think that's where we've come up by season 3. I think that's the pattern we've fallen into, is that, you know, if this is teaching something that we just cannot find in any other book of scripture, then why would you listen to it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, my friend. And so, just so those of you who are new to this channel are wondering, you know, what it is that we do here at Honor of Kings, as Sean, you know, briefly discussed. Basically, what we came up with a couple years ago was this idea that we would present on air this concept of testing these books that have been removed from canons throughout history, or are still in certain canons even up to this day. And we read these books, we test these books, we study them. We've done so in groups through social media, having dialogues. We looked at the historicity, the archaeological evidence for these things, and then we determine whether or not the people that put themselves in charge of creating said canons did a good job with how they believed books should be compiled within the canon. So Sean and I have determined over a couple seasons of doing this already that there are some books that should be in our Western Protestant canon of 66 that are not. However, they were in not too long ago. They weren't they, Sean? Some of them.
Some of them were. They just were removed in the last 100, 200 years.
Yeah,
which is crazy. Like, who gave those people the authority to remove them?
Right. I don't see anything in the scriptures saying that men should be in charge of which books, you know, they can call or label scripture or not. And so that was kind of where, that was almost the starting point, Sean, wasn't it, when we decided to do this show, was, you know, who gave these guys authority to do this? Why can't a Sean Griffin and a Ken Heidebrecht and whoever else, has been interested in these books, why can't they look at them and, come up with their own conclusions on some of the matters regarding whether or not they're good or bad. So this is exactly what we do here, and we hope that you guys have enjoyed it thus far. For those of you who aren't familiar with Sean's channel, he has Kingdom in Context on YouTube. Go over there, subscribe to him. That's where we actually have the first two seasons of Honor of Kings uploaded. And so check those out. We get new people coming in on the daily, checking out our videos, wondering, have you covered this book? Or, you guys have done a good job with this, but I want you to look into this book. Well, we've done several books. So go over there and peruse Sean's channel, and you might see that we've covered some books that you're interested in. And so this particular book that we're covering today, Sean, I don't know about you, but this was one that a lot of people wanted us to tackle.
Yeah, we got a lot of requests for the Testament of Solomon. Real quick though, I just want to make sure people understand. You were talking about how, what's to stop anyone from evaluating the books, whether they should be considered scripture or not. Just in case they are new to this channel, something we stressed a lot last year, and we've stressed it almost on every episode this year, but I just want to make sure we do it this episode, is in addition to looking at, does it teach proper theology? Now, when I said that a minute ago, what I was including and what we've stressed last year is Deuteronomy 13 test of a prophet. So from scripture, there is a litmus test that the Father gave us for, should we listen to some dude that shows up and says, I have a message from God to you about this, or that, right? And so there's a lot of books that we've reviewed that have direct prophecy in them. And this is where suddenly those books are not just a historical book that we should evaluate, does it line up historically, but suddenly those books fall into another category of, they're making a claim that they're claiming this is words from God. If those words come true, then, then there's a secondary test to this litmus test of Deuteronomy 13 and Deuteronomy 18, right? So it's, if the prophecy comes true, is the guy who made the prophecy, is he leading you? Is the rest of the stuff that he's teaching you leading you to Yahweh, leading you to the covenant, leading you to, the concepts of proper commandments and everything else, or is it going to lead you away and distract you? If his prophecy does not come true, then he fails the first test, and then just ignoring altogether. So this is why, we've already shown some books have failed the first test, and then some books may have valid prophecy in them, but then the rest of the stuff they teach is so contradictory to the rest of what God revealed through his prophets that you've got a huge contradiction. So this is what I was saying earlier about, we try to be thorough, we try to be fair with these books by examining the theology. And just want to be very clear with that, Ken, because I'm sure there's some people out there going, well, who made you guys the arbiter? Just, you're complaining about people being the arbiter of what books were included. Who made you guys the arbiter of determining, whether those people are right or not?
Yep.
Nobody made us the arbiter. We're trying to go off the standard the scriptures have already outlined.
Exactly. Precisely. I agree. That's an important thing to mention. Absolutely. And yes, so the test of a prophet, right? And so I believe that Solomon was a prophet. I believe that he wrote a lot of things that included prophecy. And so this book, Testament of Solomon, apparently has claimed authorship to Solomon. So for those of you who know, Solomon has written several books, Proverbs, the Songs of Songs. We've got Ecclesiastes, Wisdom of Solomon, which is something that we definitely want to tackle on this show one day. It gets lengthy, but it's very, very good. There's the Psalms of Solomon. A lot of people don't know about that. Really good book too. Interesting stuff we can cover as well. And then we have the Testament of Solomon. This one is interesting. I remember when I got my hands on this a couple years ago, I thought, wow, isn't this ever intriguing? Because it has so much talk about demons and interactions with demons. And I've always been fascinated with these characters that we don't get to see too often in the 66 canon of, what we have in our Bibles today. And so it intrigued me, and it was fun to study. Absolutely. And so definitely want to put it on screen for people. And unfortunately, we're not going to cover it line by line, because it's just another one of those books that is so big. It would take several episodes to cover it. And so Sean and I figured we'll just do, sections of it just to see if there's anything in it that is weird or possibly lines up. So that's how we're going to do this episode, I believe, Sean, right?
Yeah. We're going to have to, we've went through it. We've looked at it's like 130 chapters or 130 segments, almost like big verses. And so we've went through and we've outlined all the key components that we need to discuss to line it up to the previous litmus test we just described. So, yep. So
All right.
I've got it here on screen, and this is the Testament of Solomon, guys. What's unique about it, and the reason why Ken was introducing the other books that Solomon has claimed to have written, this one gets claimed authorship from Solomon, but I'm not sure if he did or not, because none of the historians are sure if he did or not either. In fact, if we read here, is originally composed in Greek. The Testament of Solomon's original author is unknown, as well as its date of origin. It's historically documented to have been revised by various unknown authors. The book includes themes from Judaism, Christianity, Greek mythology, and astrology. The Babylonian Talmud has a similar story about Solomon enslaving the prince of demons to assist building the temple of Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
And that right there is what we're going to see as we dive into the text, is the plot, if you will, of the book, where Solomon starts interacting with these demons, and some of them he actually starts making them doing manual labor.
Right. Yeah.
Which is pretty interesting.
Exactly. And before we get started there, I did a little bit of digging myself, and I was able to find that the oldest manuscripts or whatever, or of the thought of its origin, was dated around the 1st to 3rd century AD.
Mm-hmm.
That, of course, doesn't mean anything, because a lot of people like to attribute other books that Sean and I believe are legitimate scripture to later dates than they actually are. So
That's right.
that doesn't mean anything, but just I thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah, I mean, we see this with a lot of some of these books. You have a lot of contesting about their original date of conception, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem with some of this, which is why we gotta. Sometimes you can't always trust the scholars, or you can't always rely, I should say, on what they determine through their manuscript dating. And this is why we're going to line up the theology. So we'll jump right into it.
Sounds good.
All right. So chapter. Well, it's not chapter, but it's like the first 4 verses of the text. And again, I guess, Ken, if you'd like, maybe we should read like the first 20 verses or so, which kind of sets the stage, and then we can start skipping forward to the more pertinent parts.
Yeah.
Okay. Because he's going to meet like 60 something demons in this book, and the conversation goes exactly the same with all the demons. It's, who are you? What are you in charge of? And which angel stops you from doing stuff?
Right.
And so I'm giving you a very short breakdown of a lot of stuff we're going to be skipping over, but we're going to hit on all the pertinent stuff in this. So verses 1 through 4, it says, "Blessed art you, O Lord God, who did give Solomon such authority. Glory to you and mighty unto the ages. Amen. And behold, when the temple of the city of Jerusalem was being built, and the artificers were working thereat, Ornias, the demon, came among them towards sunset. And he took away half of the pay of the chief advisor's little boy, as well as half his food. He also continued to suck the thumb of his right hand every day. And the child grew thin. And although he was very much loved by the king, so King Solomon called the boy one day and questioned him, saying, Do I not love you more than all the artisans who are working in the temple of God? Do I not give you double wages and double supply of food? How is it that day by day and hour by hour you grow thinner? But the child said to the king, I pray you, O king, listen to what has befallen all that your child has. After we are all released from our work on the temple of God, after sunset, when I lie down to rest, one of the evil demons comes and takes away from me 1/2 of my pay and 1/2 of my food. Then he also takes hold of my right hand and sucks my thumb. And so my soul is oppressed, and so my body waxes thinner every day." What do you think? You want to stop and comment, Ken, or do we want to just keep rolling for a few verses?
Yeah, let's roll for a few more, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, we're building some context here.
So here in 5 through 6, it says, "Now when I, Solomon, heard this, I entered the temple of God, and I prayed with all my soul, night and day, that the demon might be delivered into my hands, and that I might gain authority over him. And it came about through my prayer that grace was given to me from the Lord Sebaot, by Michael, his archangel. He brought me a little ring, having a seal consisting of an engraved stone, and said to me, Take, O Solomon, king, son of David, the gift which the Lord has sent you, the highest Sebaot, which if you shall lock up with it, you shall lock up all the demons of the earth, male and female, and with their help you shall build Jerusalem. But you must wear this seal of God, and this engraving of the seal of the ring sent you is a pentalpha." And I, Solomon, was overjoyed and praised and glorified the God of heaven and earth. And on the morrow I called the boy and gave him the ring and said to him, take this, and at the hour in which the demon shall come unto you, throw this ring at the chest of the demon and say to him, in the name of God, King Solomon calls you here. And then do you come running to me without having any misgivings or fear in respect of what you mayest hear on part of the demon. So just, I guess, for a point of context, Ken, I just thought I'd highlighted the part where it explains that the engraving of the seal was in pentalpha.
Yes.
And so that is what we're putting on screen here, as that is this design.
Yes, that's what this book is claiming that the Archangel Michael gave to Solomon. So this is a design that is from the Most High, up in the heavens, apparently, according to this book. And what we know about this specific symbol today doesn't really correspond with anything good, right, Sean? At least that's how I understand it.
Right. Yeah. This is literally the sign of the Baphomet. This is literally the sign adopted by secret societies, specifically Freemasons. This is literally the pentagram that, you know, the occult has used to summon the unclean spirits in ritualistic fashion as far back in history as anyone can know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good catch. Yep.
So for me, this already kind of raises a red flag.
Yes, and let's just say that it's possible that there's a translation issue here, and it's not a pentagram. Maybe it was something else. This is what I tried to give this book the benefit of the doubt, you know, because like I said, I was just so intrigued with all the different demonic interactions and just the things that they controlled and how you could actually summon them. All these things that when I first read it, I was very intrigued. But I don't know. Yeah. This is one of the things that I had to raise an eyebrow over.
Yeah, this is interesting. Do you want to pick up the story?
We could pick it up. Do you have anything to comment on what we've read up to?
Just the story is simply, you know, they're building the temple, and an angel basically says, hey, I'm going to give you this ring. You control demons and help you build the temple. And then I guess there's a child that's a part of the labor force of the temple. So I guess there's child labor involved. I don't know. And this kid is favored by Solomon, and Solomon actually takes note that, you know, this kid's not doing well physically in his health. And he asks what's up. And this boy is claiming the demon is stealing his pay and his food.
Yes. So
this is something where I'm a little puzzled about this, because I've never known demons to be able to actually physically take money from you, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. This was one of the things I had to think about. Just the tangible presence of a demon that isn't embodied. You know what I mean? That's hasn't taken over a host body type thing, like how that would work.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
Is it possible? I don't know. I'm not sure. I was trying to think of anything else that we've come across. I think we might have come across something in Tobit where Asmodeus, the demon there, he was messing with the girl there, right? She was killing he was killing all the husbands somehow.
Yeah, it doesn't say how, and it actually mentions something similar to that in this book later, but it doesn't say how.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of demons in this book that we're going to read about in the latter chapters that talk about how they make people sick, but it doesn't physically say how.
Right.
But it does bring physical sickness. But we already knew that. This is what Enoch 15 and Jubilees 10 tells us about unclean spirits, right? So we already knew like how they work basically. But on the physical, like, can they just interact as an actual person and come up and mug you of your wages and your food?
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know if that's a thing.
Yeah, and Solomon tells this young boy to throw the ring against the chest.
Right.
And that implies that there's a physical form of some sort. And maybe it's maybe this demon is possessing a man or something like that. Who knows? Right. But another thing I want to bring up before we read on, Sean, that I found interesting is that where was it? You shall lock up all the demons of the earth when I give you this ring, male and female.
Yeah.
So we have some mention of female demons. Now, this is something that
could be possible.
Could be possible, right? I mean, are we to assume that all of the pre-flood giants were all male?
I would say no. I think they would. The reason why they were able to propagate was because they could propagate with their physical bodies and create offspring somehow.
Yeah.
which is why there'd be so many of them after the flood. But so it could be possible. I mean, also you have the ideas of the incubus and the succubus, so it could be possible.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's read on there, buddy.
So here we have in 7 through 9. So the child took the ring and it went off, and beheld at the customary hour Ornias, the fierce demon, came like a burning fire to take pay from the child. But the child, according to the instructions received from the king, threw the ring at the chest of the demon and said, King Solomon calls you here. And then he went off at a run to the king. But the demon cried out aloud, saying, Child, what have you done this to me? Take the ring off me, and I will render to you the gold of the earth. Only take this off me, and forbear to lead me away to Solomon. But the child said to the demon, As the Lord of Israel lives, I will not brook you. So come here. And the child came in a run, rejoicing to the king, and said, I've brought the demon, O king, as you did command, O my master. And behold, he stands before the gate of the court of your place, or of your palace, crying out and supplicating with a loud voice, offering me the silver and gold of the earth, if I will only bring him unto you. And when Solomon heard this, he rose up from his throne and went outside into the vestibule of the court of his palace. And there he saw the demon, shuddering and trembling. And he said to him, Who are you? And the demon answered, I am called Ornias. And Solomon said to him, Tell me, O demon, to what zodiacal sign are you subject? And he answered, To the water poor, and those who are consumed with desire for the noble virgins upon earth. These I strangle. But in case there is no disposition to sleep, I am changed into 3 forms. Whenever men come to be enamored of women, I metamorphose myself into a comely female, and I take hold of the men in their sleep and play with them. And after a while, I again take to my wings and hie me to the heavenly regions. I also appear as a lion, and I am commanded by all the demons. I am offspring of the archangel Uriel, the power of God. So, yeah, we'll definitely come back to that.
Yeah.
I, Solomon, having heard the name of the archangel, prayed and glorified God and the Lord of heaven and earth. And I sealed the demon and set him to work at stone cutting, so that he might cut the stones in the temple, which, lying along the shore, had been brought by the sea of Arabia. But he, fearful of the iron, continued and said to me, I pray you, King Solomon, let me go free, and I will bring you all the demons. And as he was not willing to be subject to me, I prayed the archangel Uriel to come and succor me. And I forthwith beheld the archangel Uriel coming down to me from the heavens. Oh, yeah, we should stop here for a minute.
Huge red flag.
Yeah.
Right. If we know anything about angels and which ones are the good ones, which ones are the bad ones, which we get information in First Enoch about, and other books, Uriel is not someone who's got some offspring that is a demon. That's not possible. That implies that he did the same mischievry of the 200 watchers in the pre-flood days, coming down upon Mount Ardis, which is Mount Hermon, made a pact, an oath, and went out and cohabitated with human women and had offspring, which they all got punished. They were not allowed to do that. So Uriel's not allowed to just fly around and still go, be one of those archangels, one of the mightier ones for Yahweh, and have done this. That's
right. Now, and this is specifically the archangel Uriel. So this is a big deal, guys. This isn't just because even in the book of Enoch, it lists off a lot of angels, and some of them have similar names. Mm-hmm. But no one is called. There's only 7 archangels. There are no other ones. There's no duplicate names within the 7 archangel class.
Right.
So these are the highest of high priests of heaven. They're now under Yeshua, of course, but as far as in their angelic class, they're the highest. They're called the archangels. And so there's only one archangel Uriel. Mm-hmm. And no, he is, from a canon's perspective, Matthew 22, 29 through 30, Yeshua says that we will not be married or given in marriage because we'll be like the angels of heaven. And this is where Enoch 15 expounds upon this idea that the angels of heaven were created immortal and eternal, and they were not appointed wives. They're not appointed wives in heaven to procreate, guys.
Right.
This is theologically very much a red flag.
Big time. Yeah. Yes, it would definitely sling mud on the authenticity of First Enoch.
Right.
Which is possibly one of the reasons why this thing was created to begin with. But yes, some weird things happening. Once again, I'm not going to claim that I fully understand how the unclean spirits can go about doing things like changing, metamorphomos, or whatever that word was, metamorphosing. I don't know. Is it possible? Sure. I've heard lots of different stories about people seeing weird things, but I don't know. Do you have anything to comment on that, John?
Yeah, that is kind of a common thing about like in Arabic culture. You have the jinns of the desert, the demons that change shape and do different stuff. You also have in Native American cultures and legends, the shape-shifting demons, the unclean spirits that can shapeshift.
Yeah.
So that is a concept within a lot of ancient cultures as far as what they believe the unclean spirits could do. Do we see any evidence of it in the canon? Like you said at the opening, Ken, there's not a lot of talk about demons in the Old Testament. And the only ones we see in the New Testament are in possessing the actual bodies of people. And then Yeshua's kicking them out, so
Right.
we don't really see a lot of now. Ken, I would actually theorize one of the purposes of the ancient chimera style concepts of the ancient mixed breed species. I theorize, and this is just a theory, guys. I just want to be very clear, but I theorize that the whole reason for that was so that it could be a suitable host body for an unclean spirit to then interact and, do stuff, on the earth.
Yes.
So what do you think about that, Ken?
I agree. I agree that that's very possible because of what we read in Revelation, what some of these things look like when, they come out of the bottomless pit. They're not down there with physical bodies. They're disembodied. So when they come up, they have to essentially enter something, right, in order to enact their will on mankind the way they do in Revelation. So it wouldn't surprise me that a lot of the things that they are going to do in the future have already been done in the past, in the same manner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it possible that there was some sort of body he did see with this demon? The kid throwing the ring on the chest of this demon, and then the demon willingly coming to the construction site of the temple for Solomon to see him, and it's possible. It is, or at least from my understanding, it could be possible. It's very, very unlikely, but it could be possible. In fact, the unlikeliness we're going to explain as we go further into the chapters.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think maybe we'll just read up to chapter 20, and then we'll kind of skip forward if you like.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that sounds good, man. I can read too.
Sure, brother. Go ahead.
All right. And the angel bade the whales of the sea come out of the abyss, and he cast his destiny upon the ground, and that destiny made subject to him the great demon. And he commanded the great demon and bold Ornias to cut stones at the temple. And accordingly, Solomon, glorified the God of heaven and maker of the earth. And he bade Ornias come with his destiny, and gave him the seal, saying, Away with you, and bring me hither the prince of all the demons. So Ornias took the finger ring and went off to Beelzebul, who has kingship over the demons. He said to him, Hither, Solomon calls you. But Beelzebul, having heard, said to him, Tell me, who is this Solomon of whom you speak to me? Then Ornias threw the ring at the chest of Beelzebul, saying, Solomon the king calls you. But Beelzebul cried aloud with a mighty voice and shot out a great burning flame of fire. And he arose and followed Ornias, and came to Solomon. And when I saw the prince of demons, I glorified the Lord God, maker of heaven and earth. And I said, Blessed are you, Lord God Almighty, who has given to Solomon your servant wisdom, the assessor of the wise, and has subjected unto me all the power of the devil. And I questioned him. Should I keep reading there, Sean, or do you want to?
Let's just read, I think, the next couple, and then we can summarize it.
20? Okay, sure.
Yeah.
And I questioned him and said, Who are you? The demon replied, I am Beelzebub, the ex-arch of the demons, and all the demons have their chief seats close to me, and I it is who make manifest the apparition of each demon. And he promised to bring to me in bonds all the unclean spirits, and I again glorified the God of heaven and earth, as I do always give thanks to him. I then asked of the demon if there were females among them, and when he told me that there were, I said that I desired to see them. So Beelzebul, of course, Solomon would want to see those females, right? Anyways, so Beelzebul went off at high speed and brought unto me Onesculus, that had a very pretty shape, and the skin of fair-hued woman, and she tossed her head. And when she was come, I said to her, Tell me who you are. But she said to me, I am called Onesculus, a spirit wrought, lurking upon the earth. There is a golden cave where I lie, but I have a place that ever shifts. At one time I strangle men with a noose, at another I creep up from the nature to the arms. But my most frequent dwelling places are the precipices, caves, ravines. Oftentimes, however, I do consort with men in the semblance of a woman, and above all with those of a dark skin, for they share my star with me, since they it is who privily or openly worship my star, without knowing that they harm themselves and but whet my appetite for further mischief. For they wish to provide money by means of memory, but I supply a little to those who worship me fairly. And I, Solomon, questioned her about her birth, and she said, I was born of a voice untimely, the so-called echo of a man's ordure dropped in a wood. Well, John, I have no idea what that means.
Me neither.
And I said to her, under what star do you pass? And she answered me, under the star of the full moon, for the reason that the moon travels over most things. Then I said to her, and what angel is it that frustrates you? And she said to me, he that in thee is reigning. And I thought that she mocked me, and bade a soldier strike her. But she cried aloud and said, I am subjected to you, O king, by the wisdom of God given to you, and by the angel Joel. So I commanded her to spin the hemp for the ropes used in the building of the house of God. And accordingly, when I had sealed and bound her, she was so overcome and brought to naught as to stand night and day spinning the hemp. Oh my gosh, there's so much wrong with that.
Yeah, there's a lot. What sticks out to you first, brother?
Oh my gosh. All right. You should probably put those back on screen. Actually, I can.
Was it the testament? Was it 12 through 14?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, this is claiming that a demon can take the ring under its own, like under the authority of Solomon. Solomon can give it to the demon, and the demon can use that same authority somehow to summon this Beelzebub, who is the chief of demons here, right?
Right.
And it's claiming that this Beelzebub is a demon, correct?
Oh yeah.
So, but
So
it also
Ornias-
refers to. Sorry.
Ornias, the demon that could supposedly take physical objects and steal them from people, is suddenly given this ring by Solomon and just brings it back like a good steward.
Right. But the thing that stood out to me is this Beelzebub, prince of the demons, is not a demon.
Right.
Beelzebub or Beliar, Beelzebub, however you want to use that word. If there's different renditions of the word,
Right.
is the enemy of our God. It's Azazel, Mastema, Satan, right? It's the same individual. He's an angel.
That's right.
He's an angel, so he's not a demon. So that's where this gets it wrong again, in my opinion. It's classifying Beelzebub under the wrong heading. Essentially, he's not a demon.
Right.
So that's one of the bigger things that stood out to me, brother. What about you?
To me, it's just the conversation of the female demon that comes up. In addition to what you just said, if I'm going to add to with some additional points, it'd be this conversation where this woman demon comes up and she says that she strangles men with a noose, and then at other times she creeps up from the nature to the arms. But most frequently, she hangs out in precipice, caves, ravines. Sounds like she's hiding in the rocks and the crevices. But then at other times, or oftentimes, she consorts with men in the semblance of a woman. And what I'm guessing is the word consort is used in a sexual nature. I could be wrong, but because she's specifically talking about how she interacts with people of a certain skin tone, which is kind of hilarious. But at the same time, it's I'm sitting there going, if demons just had the power to just run up and strangle you all the time, what's stopping them? Who's relegating them? Who's stopping them from doing this all the time? Right. So we've got some theological issue here as far as like what their capabilities are, which kind of goes into the same concept of how often can they take some kind of physical form that people can see, and can they stay materialized like that for any length of time? And can they actually do what Solomon is making them do, where he says he's making them to work on the temple? So this is a huge issue, guys, that we're gonna go through some concepts here, because I mean, Ken, just correct me if I'm wrong. Does it sound at all like the descriptions of Leviticus and Numbers and Exodus, as far as when they were making the tabernacle of the tent of meeting, and how everything that was made there needed to be purified and cleaned? So how can an unclean spirit, and this is going to get worse for the audience watching, guys. This is going to get worse. We're just, so far he's just interacted with a couple demons, and after he talks to them a little bit, then he puts them to work, and so now they're cutting the stone that's going to be put in the temple and all this stuff. It's going to get worse. He's going to start they're going to actually interact inside the temple. So this to me is a huge red flag according to God's Torah, as far as how his whole dwelling place, for his spirit would be in a place that's utterly clean.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I guess the argument could be made that, what is it, Chronicles that talks about Solomon conscripting essentially
But those were men.
Nephilim?
He's conscripting the Canaanites or the Sidonians, which some people believe would be Nephilim according to that time in history. But at the same time, that's if it's just them doing that, like
the grunt work,
they're cutting the stones, and then they would then transport them to the place to be actually assembled at the temple, because that's actually what First Kings chapter, I think it's chapter 7, actually talks about. And I'll go there real quick.
Sure.
Because this is,
I could see that being an argument, Sean. Well, didn't Solomon, use these other guys? Yeah.
I'll put this on screen real quick.
Yeah. And while you're doing that, Sean, I just wanted to bring up another thing real quick about just the hearkening to zodiac signs. Right back in verse 10, it talks about Solomon asking the demon, "Tell me, O demon, to what zodiacal sign you are subject." And then what we just read down here with this female demon, she talks about how they openly worship her star. So she's connected to a star, right? Whereas the other demon was talking about he's connected to the water pourer, right? So that, if you know anything about the zodiac, astrology, that's once again another kind of pagan concept that we see kind of being mixed into this idea, and this female demon saying that she's linked to a star, which doesn't make any sense at all.
All right, so I agree with you. And also, if we look at the First Kings chapter 6, verse 7, I got a couple different translations on screen here, but it says basically that the house, while it was being built, this is talking about the temple Solomon was building, was built of stone prepared at the quarry, and there was neither hammer nor axe nor any iron tool heard in the house while it was being built. So again, this is what I was trying to say, as far as if he is trying to put them to work and they were going to work in the quarry, okay, maybe. But it's going to get worse, guys. He's actually going to start putting the work inside the temple of God. Yeah. And one of them has a permanent place of position inside the temple. So this is where we have some serious issues with having an unclean spirit just chilling while they're doing sacrifices to Yahweh.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So I'll pull this back up, and we'll, so basically, we keep going down. He runs into another demon named Asmodeus, guys. I'm trying to make this, we're going to have to skip through for the sake of time for some more of these. But before we skip to the rest and we start to look at more of the demons that he actually encounters, and some of the stuff some of the prophecies that are included in here, as well as some of the claims of the demons themselves. Before we get to all that, guys, we'll go to a quick break and we'll be right back.
All right, brother. Where were we in this fascinating book, The Testament of Solomon? For those who are just joining now, or like to skip ahead and see what things are all about later on in the video, we're in the Testament of Solomon. It's very, very fascinating book. It's packed full of demonic entities that have a lot of interesting things to say and are making some pretty bold claims. So we're going to continue a little bit here. Sean, did you want to pick up?
Yeah, basically to this point so far, Solomon gets this ring from heaven that has what we can tell is a pentagram on the top of the ring, and he's able to control demons with it. And he actually starts to have these demons be brought to him one by one. And then after he talks to them and figures out who they are and what they do and which angel can stop them, he then puts them to work in building the temple of Yahweh, which is interesting. So here we pick up in chapter 21 through 22, where it has the introduction of this demon named Asmodeus, which we've actually read about this guy when we reviewed last year. We reviewed the book of Tobit, right, Ken?
That's correct. Yes. This was one of the reasons why my interest was piqued with this, because of this very mention of the demon Asmodeus. Yeah. So, yes.
And so in this interaction with this Asmodeus demon, he claims to have the same motive that he has in the book of Tobit, and he claims to be expelled or exorcised away from people in the same fashion of burning the gall of a specific fish from the river in Assyria, just like it does in the book of Tobit. Mm-hmm. Now, does that mean that the book of Tobit is bad, or does that mean that the Testament of Solomon is good, just because they have similar stories in there?
No, it would just, in my opinion, it just means that someone's kind of smart with copycatting certain aspects of a book that's legitimate in order to bolster their book in its legitimacy.
Is it possible, since the Book of Tobit was in the canon for so long, is it possible that whomever may have provided those unknown edits that we talked about at the introduction of this book, that they edited in certain details like they already saw in the books that were in the canon?
It's very, very possible.
That would be an easy thing to do to give it more legitimacy, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So there is something in this book. I mean, if you've watched to this point so far, you've heard us talk about some huge theological issues as far as angels and the claims that it makes about angels, and about some of the origins of the demons and things like that are completely off according to the scriptures. But now it actually has a demon who matches a book that we already validated, because that book, the Book of Tobit, passed on every level of prophecy, history, and theology.
Mm-hmm.
So this has similar information in it, but that doesn't mean that it makes this whole Testament of Solomon suddenly legit.
Exactly. And, as interesting as it is to see, several aspects of Asmodeus talking a little bit more in depth about what he can do, what he does, that we don't see in the Book of Tobit, we have to discard that. We have to completely discard that and not use any of that just because this character is in a legitimate book, right? And that's kind of the sad thing I see, Sean. Some teachers like to do that. They like to cherry pick out of books because some of the information in that book might line up with another book that's good. And they'll build, off of their theory with the information they've used in this book because it lines up with a different book. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's a no-no. In my opinion, you can't do that. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah, that's right. So we have several chapters here, or verses, I should say. They're big verses, though, almost like small chapters. And several of them that go on with this conversation with Asmodeus and King Solomon. And he continues to explain that he's a fierce demon, he's ordered to carry 10 water jars to carry water in. And the demon groaned terribly, but he did do the work that was ordered by Solomon. And so he actually has a piece of iron that's been laid on his body.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because he actually he asks King Solomon not to condemn him into the water. And then King Solomon is like, well, I'm just going to put this big piece of iron on you, and I'm going to make you use you for construction of the temple.
Yeah. He dangles the liver of the fish over him and burns it.
Yep.
So that, because I guess he was super strong in this tale. So
yeah,
it kind of weakened him in a way. But
yeah, so then Asmodeus exits the scene, and then we go into he summoned this Beelzebul character, this prince of demons again. He summoned him back, and he says, "Why are you alone, the prince of demons?" And he said to me, "Because I am alone left of the angels of heaven that came down. For I was the first angel in the first heaven, being entitled Beelzebul, and now I control all those who are bound in Tartarus." So in this way, it sounds like it's trying to make him seem like the Azazel character, because of the control it's telling him. But he doesn't control those who are bound in Tartarus. Angels of God control those who are bound in Tartarus.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because
First
Tartarus is
First Enoch talks about who's in charge of them, who's watching over them, and how they're linked with specific things eschatologically to come. They're in charge of aspects of Tartarus and the abyss in general. So yes, Beelzebul is not. And it's interesting because they're trying to legitimize, in my opinion, this may be even added on, like we were talking about earlier, later on, just to be. Now they're claiming that he is an actual angel, right?
Right.
Whereas earlier, this was something. It was a little more obscure. It was making him linked to a demon, like a demon and an angel, which you can't have.
Right. Because that would be a misunderstanding of what angels are compared to actual demons. Yeah. But this one, this is where he's claiming to actually have control over something that other scriptures clearly say demons and rebellious angels do not have control over. The actually archangels of God, the true archangels, they are the only ones that would have control over the punished angels that are imprisoned in Tartarus. Mm-hmm. So this is a huge theological problem here. And so he goes on to speak with Beelzebub for several chapters here. And he talks about another demon, Epiphysis, which is his son, that apparently is still at the bottom of the Red Sea. And but then what's interesting here, I have highlighted in verse 29. Well, let me start in verse the beginning of verse 29 says, and I said to him, tell me, by what angel are you frustrated? And he said, by the holy and precious name of the Almighty God, called by the Hebrews by a row of numbers, of which the sum is 644, and in the Greek it is Emmanuel.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So then he goes, and if one of the Romans adjure me by the great name of the power of Eliot, I disappear at once. So while we can't, while there is gematria in a form of number coding in the Hebrew, we understand that they're on some level. How people take it and interpret it is where it gets kind of wonky.
Yeah.
So that's where there could possibly be. I haven't looked at the name Emmanuel in Paleo Hebrew to see if it adds up to 644, but what's not the part that sticks out to me, Ken? It's this part right here where it says, if the Romans adjure me by the great name of the power Eliot, I disappear at once. Mm-hmm. Well, if this conversation is truly a testament of Solomon, that is happening during the lifespan of Solomon, then we have a huge historical problem, because this is claiming that the Romans were around and able to actually do this, to exorcise this demon. But the Romans weren't even as a township along, a small river in Italy, in 753 BC, guys. King Solomon reigned around 980 BC, which is 200 years earlier than the Romans, before the Romans ever came into an established concept. So this historically would be like 200 years off. And this would be, to me, this is a huge red flag as far as any further later edits to this book, or even the initial writing of this book. They just didn't know some of the history, or were confused about some of the history as far as the dates as when Solomon reigned versus when the Roman Empire was started. Right. Or even just the very beginning little township of Rome that started in Italy that later became the Roman Empire. You get a huge 200-year discrepancy here.
Yeah, huge incongruency. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't know history, I guess you could just glaze over that one. But yeah, that was a good catch.
So he goes on to talk about, the Beelzebub character. He says that you can burn a specific thing and light 7 lamps in an earthquake, and it will firmly fix your house. He's basically saying the actual 7 lamp candlestick in the temple, if you burn it with this specific stuff, it'll firmly fix your house and keep you, I guess, earthquake proof.
Oh, wow.
So now he's actually literally telling him how to light the menorah inside the temple. But they already have that instruction from Exodus. They don't need that from this demon.
Right. Yeah.
So we got some theological issues with Exodus at this point.
Yeah. The writer of this book, or the several writers of this book, didn't understand.
Yeah.
A lot of the the first 5 books, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have he then talks to this demon named Tephraz, the spirit of ashes, and as he's talking to them, that I guess there's a conversation being had, and the angel by whom the third date fevers list rolled. So I questioned him. I said, "What's your name?" And he answered, and he says, "That of the archangel Azazel." So now he finishes talking with Tephraz, and he talks to this other angel, or this other demon, who claims to have a similar name as the archangel Azazel, but that's not one of the archangels listed in the book of Enoch. Mm-hmm. So if this is your first time to ever see Honor of Kings, guys, we've actually done 15 episodes in the book of Enoch.
Yeah, 15. Yeah.
Validating it for week after week after week, theologically, historically, and in every way through its prophecy. We've given the book of Enoch a raging thumbs up, right? It's it's really, really solid. And there's a reason why first century, first, second, third, and fourth century early church fathers considered it scripture and quoted from it. There's a reason why Jude quoted from it in the little epistle of Jude in the New Testament. Mm-hmm. And in our opinion, there's a reason why Paul and Yeshua quoted from it, because it was accepted scripture back then to them. They probably had more of the book of Enoch than we have today, but at least the fragments that we still have lines up with the stuff that we see them teaching. So this is why we've been referring to the book of Enoch quite often, because it does explain a lot about angels and demons in the book of Enoch.
Yes, it absolutely does. And Jubilees as well. Jubilees, yep. We get a lot of information about demonic entities as well. But yeah, good call, brother. Azazel, I'm not sure if there was a name. There's several angels listed off in the book of First Enoch. I can't remember if Azazel was one of them, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
But none of the archangels were named Azazel.
No.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's 2 Azazels in Enoch 69. But those are just listed off as the ones that rebelled and came down, with the part of the Watcher group that came down and eventually rebelled. But also it just talks about, here we have him setting the seal on this demon, Azael, and commanding him to seize great stones and toss them up to the workmen on the higher parts of the temple. So like he's literally the dude that's just like throwing huge rocks up to other dudes, which so wait, so the point of him having to do this was that they couldn't lift these manageably themselves. So he had to toss them because he had this great strength. Well, how do the people catch them? I don't know. Just there's some weirdness here that there's a lot of lack of logic of follow through with some of these claims in here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Hebrews were strong. Haven't you seen Charlton Heston? I mean, that guy, he had some pipes on him.
Yeah. Just like a Hercules.
Yeah. So we got some more demons here, right?
Yeah, more demons. This is like a group of 7, and they consider themselves to be like the Borg, like one talks, they all talk kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they got the 7th one doesn't give their name, which is kind of interesting, but the first one's deception, and then strife, klatad, which means battle, jealousy, power, error. And so those are the 6, and the 7th one doesn't really give the name of what the 7th one is, but they also are put to work by him. And so, and one of them, the last one, claims that they're the actual demon that's going to cause Solomon to stray from Yahweh later in his life.
Right. Yeah, that was very, very frustrating.
Yeah.
Right at the end here, if you leave it on screen here, it says, "But I have an angel that frustrates me, Uriel." So here again, we have Uriel, who apparently was the father of one of these demons, but he can also frustrate this error, I guess. I am error, the 6th.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it really doesn't.
So then the 7th still doesn't give their name, and there's a part missing from the manuscript, which is why it has all those dots there. But this is the one that's threatening Solomon, saying that you will be the one that I will be the one that causes you to err, causes you to mess up. And I'll impose the bonds of Artemis on you. And that's, I don't know what that means, to be honest. If anyone does in the chat, please put it in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, verse 42, it says, "So I, Solomon, having heard and wondered, sealed them with my ring. And since they were so considerable, I bade them to dig the foundations of the temple of God, for the length of it was 250 cubits.
Okay.
So now
250 cubits.
Yeah. I don't.
Does that line up with the measurement that we're told?
I couldn't find. You guys put in the chat if you know the verse where it explains the measurements of the temple, but I couldn't find them as far as the actual foundation. It just talks about the foundation being laid, but it doesn't actually give the cubit measurement.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, I struggle with the idea of these guys actually doing the grunt work. These 3 spirits doing the grunt work of digging out dirt.
Yes, exactly. Any comment, Sean, on verse 41, the part where it says, "I am the worst, and I make you worse off than you were, because I will impose the bonds of Artemis." Artemis, for those who don't know, is a Greek goddess.
Yeah.
So once again, we've got a mixture of Greco-Roman information kind of interweaved throughout this book.
Yeah.
Which to me kind of dates it. It dates it at a later date. But
well, this is where some of the authors I read that were trying to figure out this book, specifically one of the authors who studies apocryphal works, she's a scholar, and she claimed that one of the last edits to, or what they called recensions to, this book of Testament of Solomon was during the medieval times, like the 13th century. So that it's hard to say because there's not a lot of historical documentation on this as far as, but it does look weird that they're throwing in some concepts like, we already saw the Roman issue, which is a problem.
Yeah.
But here's Ornatus back talking with Solomon again. It mentions more demons. Alberion, he's another demon that comes in. He says he's from the day star. Again, the same concept for the viewer. We're kind of skipping through this quickly because there's the same concept that happens over and over and over for many, many chapters. Another demon comes to Solomon. He says, "What's your name? What do you do?" And which angel basically stops you. And so that they just go through this concept over and over again.
So Sean, before we move on, I'm not sure if we're going to cover this in later slides, but what you just mentioned about he's from the day star. This book claims that these demons can actually go to these stars. And so
yeah, it's going to get worse at the latter chapters. They claim they
Yeah.
actually go past the firmament into heaven.
right. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll discuss that when we
Yeah.
get there. Wasn't sure
Yeah.
if we're going to cover that.
Yeah,
time or
guys,
not, but-
if you're watching and you're wondering why we're skipping through some of the stuff, because we're getting to the meat of the claims of this book, and the claims just get worse as we go. So it's just ramping up. We're just kindling the fire of this theological dumpster fire we're looking at here. So he asks, here's this another guy named Staff, Rabdos, another dude that comes up and he says, what do you do? It's the same concept. And then there's another, same demon. He says, I order afresh the demons to cut marble for the construction of the house of God. So now he just like Ornias, he wanted him to cut, and Beelzebul, he wanted him to cut. He's got this other demon that he wants to help cut the stones for the construction of the house of God.
Yes, and then we've got another name, Lion Bear.
Yeah, Wrath and
Wrath
Kind,
and
the
Kind.
lion bear. And he supposedly has legions of demons underneath him.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets interesting, because he claims he can only be exorcised by the Son of God. So it says here in 52 through 54, it says, so I said to him, I adjure you in the name of the God Sabaoth to tell me by what name are you frustrated along with your host? That's along with the demons that he controls. And the Spirit answered me, the great among men, who is to suffer many things at the hands of men, whose name is the figure 644, which is Emmanuel. He it is who has bound us, and who will then come and plunge us from the steep under water. He is noised abroad in the three letters which bring him down.
Yeah, that's
Any ideas, Ken?
the three, like the three-letter part, you mean?
Any of it?
Well, to me, it just reeks of like the whole gematria emphasis here. I mean, the Talmudic, Judaistic kind of Kabbalistic has a feel to it. You know what I mean? Like it's this constant. The name is the figure 644, which is Emmanuel. I mean, I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way with that.
Yeah. As far as actual scripture, I've never seen any scripture that talked about Yeshua being brought down from heaven. I suppose that's what it's referring to, by three letters. And I'm not sure. I just have no clue what that would mean. But it's pointing to a messianic concept. So now we actually have a demon prophesying.
Mm-hmm.
So and he's prophesying specifically about Yeshua, saying that Yeshua is the one that has actually bound them and will bound them again. So to me, this is hard for me, because I'm like, Yeshua's not on the earth running around. This is he's not revealed unto man yet. There's a reason why the angels were singing from heaven the first time he showed up. There's a reason. That's why he was prophesied to show up at a specific time. He wasn't down here running around before then. And I know there's a lot of people in the audience that may not like me saying that, but that's just that's the reality of the prophecy of him to come the first time. He wasn't already here doing a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. So here we have Solomon telling him again, he condemned the legion to carry wood from the thicket, and he condemned the lion-shaped one to saw wood with his teeth. But then at the end of this passage in 54, it says, but I have my own way of being frustrated. This is another demon who has a caltrop-like spirit. And he says, he's frustrated by not an angel, but by Jerusalem being signified in writing unto the place called of the head. For there is foreappointed the angel of the great council, and now he will openly dwell on the cross. He does frustrate me, and to him I am subject.
So that's pointing to Yeshua once again, right?
Yeah.
And it's referring to him as an angel.
Right. As an angel, and apparently he's already got control over this demon.
Right.
So
yeah, so that would signify once again that this is a post first century writing, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we go real quick. This other guy named Epaphras, which was the son of Ornias, or the son of Ornias, I believe it was, who was trapped at the bottom of the Red Sea until this conversation happens, and then he's released because he gives the ring to Ornias, who then goes and gets this guy out of being trapped at the bottom of the Red Sea. And he explains that Epaphras explains that he was the actual demon that influenced the heart of Pharaoh and made Pharaoh's heart go hard, and then that he was in the Red Sea when all the waters killed all the Egyptians that were running across the Red Sea, and therefore he was trapped there ever since. And it's just like there's a lot of stuff here that's hard to validate or hard to, but it's strange.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't Jubilees talk about Mastema essentially being the one that interacted with Pharaoh in that way? You know what I mean? I mean, we know Mastema can, through
Right.
his authority, command his demons to do certain things, obviously, but yeah, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, it's yeah, because it does talk about specifically Satan. Mastema was locked up for 3 days during the process of the Exodus.
Yeah.
And then that's when he was released. That's when he convinced Pharaoh to gather the army and chase after the Israelis.
Right. Yeah.
It goes on. There's more demons. Here's another quick thing where Solomon says in chapter 59, I've heard this and have glorified the Lord. I ordered her hair to be bound. This was a specific demon with no arms and wild hair, likened unto like Medusa from Greek mythology, and that she should be hung up in front of the temple of God. So here is this one. He doesn't put her to work. He just hangs her up like one of those women on the front of the boat of the Greeks. You know, what were those called?
What was it? I can't remember.
I can't remember either. But that, like, he bounds her, and specifically her hair, because her hair was all over the place. But then that she should be hung up in front of the temple of God, that all the children of Israel, as they pass, might see it and glorify the Lord God of Israel, who has given me this authority with wisdom and power from God by means of the signet. Are you really trying to tell me that when they show up for Passover or for Sukkot, they're seeing a demon with no arms and no legs just chilling, strapped in front of the temple? And they're supposed to glorify God as a result of this?
That's what it's claiming.
Like, I don't understand this.
Yeah, I mean, the more and more it gets bizarre, the more I hope that the discernment in a Christian believer is working. You know what I mean? Because it just, none of this stuff works at all. Like, this is one of the more obvious ones.
So there was I'll go back to there was another demon he puts to work as well here in 62 through 63, chapter 64. He gets to this guy who says he has a whole bunch of names, but he can call him Epinepsigos, and he actually likens himself to the name Kronos, which is one of the ancient Greek gods. And he's frustrated by an angel called Rothanael, who's from the third heaven. And then he goes on to say, no, I think this is Solomon saying, I there prayed to my God, and I invoked the angel of whom Enepsigos spoke to me, and used my seal, and I sealed her with a triple chain, and placed beneath her fasting of the chain. I used the seal of God, and the Spirit prophesied to me, saying, this is what you, King Solomon, do to us. But after a time your kingdom shall be broken, and again in season this temple shall be riven asunder, and all Jerusalem shall be undone by the king of the Persians and Medes and Chaldeans. And the vessels of this temple which you make shall be put to serve all uses of the gods, and along with them all the jars, in which you do shut us up, shall be broken by the hands of men. And then we shall go forth in great power here and there, and be disseminated all over the world. And we shall lead astray the inhabited world for a long season, until the Son of God is stretched upon the cross. For never before does arise a king likened unto him, one frustrating us all, whose mother shall not have contact with men. Who else can receive such authority over spirits except he whom the first devil will seek to tempt, but will not prevail over? The number of his name is 644, which is Emmanuel. Wherefore, O King Solomon, your time is evil, your years short in evil, and to your servant shall your kingdom be given. So supposedly, the spirit is, think about the wording of this, guys. Supposedly, it says the Spirit prophesied to me saying this. So the spirit, the demon is prophesying. This is not the Spirit of God. This is the demon saying, this is what's going to happen, guys. This temple is going to be destroyed. We're going to be released. All these ones that you're binding us in your
we're
control.
trapped in jars. We're
trapped in jars,
and released once we're broken. And
and then we'll lead the world astray for a long time until the Son of God is stretched upon the cross. So is this trying to make the insinuation that when Yeshua showed up and after he went to the cross and rose from the dead, that suddenly demons aren't a problem anymore?
Yeah, I mean, it can read like that.
Because isn't there Acts 16, which is after the ascension and after the cross and resurrection of Yeshua? Acts 16.
Yeah, there's the Jewish man with his sons or whatever. They're trying to exorcise the demon or whatever.
Well, there was a girl with a demon, right? That was following Paul
Oh, right, yeah.
and
Yep.
whatever, and kept shouting, and then suddenly they cast the spirit out of her, and her handlers came and beat them up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
So
and there's the other guys too, right? The sons of
yeah, the sons of Zebedee, or was it?
whatever his name was. Yeah. They couldn't do it. They the demon left him naked, running away.
Yeah. So I don't under this prophecy to me, like this would, I mean, if all the other stuff didn't make any sense and didn't line up theologically, this one right here would disqualify this book 100%, because this is trying to prophesy that these demons are locked up by Solomon because he's building this temple and he's putting them in certain positions, and then he's going to put the rest of them in jars. And then after the temple is destroyed, they're going to be released until the Son of God binds them up again, because only he, as it says, who else can receive such authority over spirits except he? Well, yeah, we know that Yeshua had authority over spirits. We're not contesting that. That was clear in the Gospels, but the way it's worded, I guess I'm trying to say, as far as this prophecy, is that this, that after Yeshua comes, there's no more problems with demons. But we don't see that in the New Testament. We see a huge problem with demons in the New Testament, even leading up to the day of the Lord, like the book of Revelation, leading up to the end of the age, where the spirits go like frogs. They're demons that go out of the mouth of the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet, and they go gather the kings of the earth. Like there's still demonic interaction happening even up until the last day.
Yeah, I'm just trying to read it over. I wonder if that's what it's actually saying. It seems like once they're released from the jars, when the Chaldeans come in and, disrupt the temple and whatnot, and they go into the world, wreak havoc. And then when Yeshua comes and dies, then that authority through him, they're able to be frustrated and dealt with. But I don't know if it's saying that we'll never be able to wreak havoc on the earth.
It could.
Maybe.
But we have a comment. West Plays Music is saying maybe it's just those demons. Maybe.
Yeah.
It doesn't qualify that either. But yeah, maybe it's trying to infer. So what you're saying, Ken, is maybe it's trying to infer that because no other king is going to have this type of power to bind us except Yeshua.
Right. And then the authority that he gives to his structure of people under him, right?
Yeah.
The apostles and whoever else. Either way, it doesn't matter. This book
isn't that a problem though with what we see in the Gospels, where the Pharisees themselves were already casting out demons?
Yeah.
And this is why when Yeshua shows up to cast out the mute spirit, they're like, whoa, we can't do this. Who has this kind of authority? So
that's right.
Yeah, I just see huge issues with this.
Yeah.
I'll skip Thor. He has more conversation with the Beelzebul demon, and then he meets some other guys named Ruax and Barsophel, Aristotle, Idul, Svendanel, Svandor, Bobel. It sounds like names from Lord of the Rings, right? Kumitiel, Rolades or Roled, Atrax.
It is giving me a heartburn.
Yeah, these are 36 that he meets and goes through and has the same conversation. Who are you? What do you do? Who frustrates you? Buldamek, Noath, Nothath, Mardero, Anatreth, Inuth, all these different names, Pet, Anastor, Elaborith, Hemisphere, Anastor, Horpax, like are these different names. He goes on, he finally gets to the last one, and this is towards the end of the book. And then he says, some of these demons I condemn to do the heavy work of the construction of the temple of God. Others I shut up in prisons. So several dozen angels or several dozen demons he interacts with. Some of them he actually makes them do the heavy work. All right. So then he says in chapter 108 and 109, in 109, he says, among them, he's talking about how he was given such great wisdom. This is what we also know from 1 Kings 1 through 11, and that other kings of the earth would come to pay homage to him. And that in one of these moments, it is the queen of the south, and he calls her a witch. So this is interesting, because what does Yeshua say about the queen of the south?
Yeah, Sheba, right?
Yeah.
She's not a witch.
Right.
She's a good woman.
Right. She was righteous. She believed. Yeah. And it's in Matthew 12:42. I'll put it on screen for us to review. The queen of the south is not a witch, guys. The queen of the south will rise up with incineration at the judgment and will condemn it, because she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. Behold, something's greater than Solomon is here. So she came. She was not a witch because she apparently is considered righteous, literally saying that she'll rise up at the resurrection at the end of the age.
Yeah, and contemn the judgment of Yeshua's day, the Pharisees and the ones that were leading the people astray through their traditions and whatnot.
Yeah. So this is a huge theological issue here, because now that's negating Yeshua's actual judgment of this particular woman. So it's a problem. So do you want this one?
Yeah, I can read it here. We're going to read the highlighted portion here. We demons ascend into the... So this is talking about when it says we demons, who's it referring to? And when they were gone, I ordered Ornias. Okay, so this is Ornias talking about how the demons can essentially travel around. We demons ascend into the firmament of heaven and fly about among the stars. And we hear the sentences which go forth upon the souls of men, and forthwith we come. And whether by force of influence, or by fire, or by sword, or by some accident, we veil our act of destruction. And if a man does not die by some untimely disaster or by violence, then we demons transform ourselves in such a way as to appear to men and be worshipped in our human nature. All right, so this is what we were talking about earlier. Sorry, I kind of gave it away, Sean. I wasn't sure if we're going to get to this latter portion of the book, but this is talking about something that is near and dear to our hearts, right? The biblical cosmology and how this does not fit. Why, Sean?
Well, for one, it tells us that the demons in First Enoch, that they were to be sentenced on the earth because they were born on the earth. They cannot go above the firmament. Only the angels who were born in heaven could then go and traverse the various levels of heaven for different reasons. This particular one, it says that they go and fly about into the firmament of heaven among the stars. Well, according to that's going to be above the first layer of the firmament, both according to Job and the Apocalypse of Abraham, and like that's much higher than just the sky above the land where we live.
I think it's the fifth firmament according to Apocalypse of Abraham, if I recall. So
that means they're going through multiple layers of the firmament. And that's where they hear sentences that go forth upon the souls of men. And what it's trying to claim is that the only reason they come down to kill men is because they've heard it in heaven, and then they go down to do it. Am I reading that right, Ken?
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Okay, and that's a problem.
And then if that doesn't happen, then they appear to men as men to be worshipped by men, I guess.
Lady Bear says, "Wow, this book must be burned up."
I know, it's bad. It really is bad.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Scott, there's a comment here from Scott Level Realm. He says, "I get it, analyze it, but as soon as it seems bad, why continue, brother?"
We're showing. You'll be surprised how many people will hit us up with messages after this trying to defend this book.
Yeah, we're trying to pick out the big, glaring, obvious incongruencies. Okay, like we don't want to just pick the first two and be like 5 minutes later we're done. We get flack for that. So we want to spend at least an hour, one full episode talking about this book and cover as much as we can to completely debunk it, so that there's no question, and we've done our due diligence. That's why we do it, brother.
Yeah.
All right, Sean, I know we're going past our time that we normally do with these length of episodes, but was there...
just this passage here in chapter 114, just as things are fulfilled in heaven, so also on earth are fulfilled the types of all of them. And there are principalities, authorities, world rulers, and we demons fly about in the air, and we hear the voices of the heavenly beings and survey all the powers. And as having no ground basis on which to alight and rest, we lose our strength and fall off like leaves from trees. And men see us, imagine that the stars are falling from heaven. But it is not really so, O king. But we fall because of our weakness, and because we have nowhere anything to lay hold of. And so we fall down like lightnings in the depths of night. And suddenly we set cities in flames and fire the fields. For the stars have firm foundations in the heaven like the sun and the moon. So from what I just understood, what I read is these demons claim that when you see what we consider a shooting star, that's actually a demon falling because he can't fly in the air anymore. And by the way, he may catch your field or your city on fire if he falls near you. So watch out.
Yes. And it's an intriguing claim. I'll admit, because I've always wanted to know what shooting stars really are. So, when I first read this book and I got to this passage, I thought, is that possible? No, it's not, because everything else prior to what I just read just doesn't line up. But intriguing theory nonetheless. I'll give the writer that, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not unclean spirits, brothers and sisters, falling down. It's not them.
We have another prophecy in chapter 122. It says, by the only ruling God, that you have authority over me, even to be heard. He that is to be born of a virgin and crucified by the Jews on a cross, whom the angels and archangels worship, he does frustrate me and enfeeble me of my great strength, which has been given to me by my father, the devil. So this is that angel, if I'm not mistaken, the Epaphras one, the one that was the son of Beelzebub, that was blocked at the bottom of the Red Sea. And so he claims that, that has authority over, like Jesus directly has authority over him, basically, which I don't understand that. I haven't. But then Solomon says to this demon, because he's so strong, not only this, O king, but also with the help of the demon who presides over the Red Sea, I will bring up the pillar of air and will stand it where you will in Jerusalem. So Solomon has an issue with something inside the temple that's too big for his men to lift up. And so these two demons he gets to hold up in the air with no foundation, suspended in the air,
Levitating.
just levitating inside the temple, guys. This is not something at the quarry that's later brought to this is literally inside the temple. This book is claiming there's two demons levitating a huge block of stone inside the temple perpetually as they go in there with the Levites who are clean to perform perfect sacrifices. Like
with a female tied to a pole outside.
With the armless, legless female. And then Solomon in 123 says that this is the fulfillment of the prophecy in Psalms about truly the scriptures fulfilled, which says the stone which the builders rejected on that trial, that same has become the head of the corner. For it is not mine to grant but God's, that the demon should be strong enough to lift up so great a stone and deposit it in the place I wished. So now he's taking a prophecy that the writer, that Paul in Romans tells us is about Yeshua, and he's claiming that these demons are fulfilling this prophecy.
I know, it's ridiculous.
So yeah, we got huge problems, guys. And it says in 124, they took the column and raised it aloft from the earth. And the spirits have remained upholding it till this day for proof of the wisdom vouchsafed to me. And there the pillar was hanging of enormous size in midair, supported by the winds. And thus the spirits appeared underneath, like air, supporting it. And if one looks fixedly, the pillar is a little oblique, being supported by the spirits, and it is so today. So it's bad, guys.
Oh my gosh! I mean, do we need to comment on it? It's bad. It's obvious.
And it says in 127, they're not going to let go of this pillar until the world's end, and on whatever day the stone falls, then shall be the end of the world.
So this thing is still standing somewhere randomly, or are we at the end of the world already?
Yeah, like that's a failed prophecy right there. Yeah. I'm struggling to remain stoic faced here because this is so bad. So that's pretty much it, guys. You guys are welcome to study this on your own. Ken and I have studied this, and we give it a no. Yeah,
the jig was up long ago. We try our best to come with some poker faces, because people don't like when we start off saying this is a bad book. This is why. We like to leave a little bit of suspense. But it's hard. It's hard when you make such bold assertions from, the outset of the book that, like, for instance, the ring of authority that comes from heaven, from the Almighty, that has a pentagram on it. So whenever a king had a signet ring, that ring represented the authority, right? The authority of the king. So this book is claiming that the pentagram is an authoritative design that comes from the Most High, when we know it's the opposite. It's not the Most High's authoritative symbol. It's just not. So it's like right out the gate, boom, bad. But then you continue on, it just gets worse and worse and worse. Very intriguing book, but huge thumbs down for me.
Huge thumbs down. In fact, Ken, this one fitting with the theme today absolutely gets.
Yes, Balrog, go down to the depths from whence you came. Yeah. So another reason why when I was doing a little bit of research on this book and just looking up some images to make a bit of a graphic just to post on my community tab on YouTube, I came across something interesting. I just want to screen share real quick, Sean.
Okay.
It's a game that is extremely demonic. We'll just say it's demonic. Can you see that, Sean?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Highly suggest that you don't participate in this Kickstarter, but this is a game called Goetia, 9 Kings of Solomon, and I read their synopsis on where, they got this idea to make this game from. You can watch a little video about it, and it just elaborates on how to play the game. They've got all their information from this book, the Testament of Solomon. That's what gave them the ability to go ahead and make this game. And this game boasts right here where I'm highlighting, where players will contact, conjure, and worship real goetic demons! ! Woohoo, right?
Wow.
Now that sounds awesome and fun. I mean, it's by Demonic Games. So we have a company called Demonic Games that, I guess there's more games out there that, through advertisement and whatnot are part of this label. But this was, I couldn't believe it. When I watched this, I was like, everything, like you got the all-seeing eye, you got these little druid, cultic priests here as the pieces. You got to summon demons and do all sorts of crazy things. This isn't just Ouija board stuff. This is this is Ouija board on
3D animation. Yeah.
Yeah. So I couldn't believe what I was reading here, but this is, our day and age, right? It's no longer being hidden anymore. And it's in plain view. Worship demons, and have fun while you're doing it, right? And this is all comes from this very book we covered today. So this is another reason why this gets a huge thumbs down for me.
I gotta say this real quick, Ken, because I know some of the haters out there are going to clip what you just said. You weren't telling people that you should worship demons and having fun while you do it. You were just mockingly saying like that's what the other people of this game are trying to say. Unfortunately, people will clip that and soundbite us because we have people that follow our channels just to hate on us.
They can do whatever they want to do to make their lives more interesting, I guess. But of course not. Of course, I'm not promoting that you do that.
It's crazy that we have to clarify. Sometimes we can't even be sarcastic, but we have our first question from a Big Red G, Ken. He's asking, is there a correlation between Babylon and the Vatican?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say so. Yeah. Everything that the Vatican has its roots all the way back to Babylon. And I highly suggest you watch Sean's videos regarding Babylon that he's done on his channel over at Kingdom in Context. He does a great job kind of laying out the thread from which Babylon starts to the very end of days, essentially, and how everything really is linked up to Babylon, including the Vatican. Absolutely.
Yeah, so just go to my playlists, and it's a Mystery Babylon playlist, and we've done 3 parts so far. There'll be more parts to come in the future, but yeah, you probably enjoy that. I personally, Ken, I think that the woman, the harlot that's riding the beast is the Vatican, basically, or the ecumenical Vatican Church that is so in control of so many people, tongues, and nations. I think that symbolically, I think that the Vatican is the woman of Revelation, the harlot.
Yeah, I've heard that theory too.
Yeah, which is why the beast is going to turn on her and devour her later. So looks like we have one more question here from Mike K. Gunders asking, how physical can demons get? I don't know how to word this question.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know how to answer that either. I've just heard of people's experiences with weird demonic things outside of a host body. Like, Sean was mentioning shape-shifting, weird kind of dark, hazy, shapes kind of, I don't know. Stuff like that. I don't know what that is. I haven't experienced it before. I've just read things about people's experiences with stuff and they claim it's demonic. I don't know. Other than what we have in the scriptures, as far as I can tell, demons possess people and drive them mad. They can make them super sick. They try to kill them in a lot of senses. And so all this shape shifting, changing into a female, and the ability to move around and have some sort of a tangible physical essence outside of a host body. I don't know. I haven't read anything that would suggest that, other than like a book like this that we've just covered. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Good question. I don't know, Sean. I don't know if you have anything to add to that. But
Personally, it's hard to say. It really is, because, like I said earlier, in the New Testament, we see them possessing people more than taking a physical body. But I would pose that ancient Nephilim of old, the whole purpose of them to create these hybrid bodies was so they could actually possess it and actually still interact amongst mankind in a physical, tangible way, right? So just like a possessed person, like the guy in Matthew chapter 5, Matthew 8 and Mark 5, the guy that had to chain up in the tombs outside the city, and he was having that demon strength, man. He was breaking the chains that they were trying to, chain him up with, just like you see in a bad poltergeist movie or something. So like, yeah, that's clearly they can exert some sort of influence on physical creation, and to the point of it literally possessing someone and using that host body. But they themselves have lost their bodies. That's the point of them being called unclean spirits, as Enoch chapter 10 expresses to us, and Jubilees chapter 10 actually, that they are the disembodied spirits of the giants, the Nephilim, before the flood of Noah. And so therefore now they're unclean spirits running around seeking whom they may devour, whom they can oppress, attack, destroy, influence into bad theology, make sick. And so personally, I wouldn't put it past the transhumanism agenda, which I'll be covering this in my Babylon series, of how they're trying to make a body for demons to actually inhabit through artificial intelligence, through biosynthetic, android style body. Is that way it doesn't decay. And like the problem they have with possessing the mind of a regular person is that person goes schizophrenic, and you have physical ailment, and their body starts to deteriorate when they're demon possessed. It's a problem, physical health problem. So that host body only lasts so long. But if they had a android synthetic body that didn't reject the animating life force that's powering it, I'll leave that for the show later. But I personally think this is what we're seeing in Revelation 9. So I'll explain with greater depth later.
It's very, very fascinating to think on. But Mick Gunder, it's a good question. I personally can't give you any more information about it.
So Miss Catherine is asking, where's Lindsay? This is Honor of Kings, Miss Catherine. She's never joined us for this show. This is on Ken's channel, and I appreciate you watching both of our channels. But Lindsay,
I miss her too. I miss her too, Catherine.
She's in the other room, and she's visiting family right now. We're doing like an early Thanksgiving because we have to travel next week. But so she's probably watching, but she's not on screen on Honor of Kings. Alexander Bell, this is a fun question. Can you explain scriptures? Yeah.
Well, I have a video on my channel.
Yep.
It's called The Firmaments of Heaven, and it describes it in pretty good detail, I'd say. Sean, you probably got some information over on your channel as well, don't you?
Only what we talk about with hang on, I'm trying to pull up your video real quick.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I put it on screen for them. And
there's several scriptures that would suggest that there's more than one firmament layer above our heads. So
it's the firmaments of heaven.
Yes.
Day one. Is that it?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Feel free to watch that if you guys haven't already. And to those who are watching right now, thank you so much. We really, really do appreciate you guys joining us on these evenings when we do these shows. It's very much appreciated.
Yeah, go check it out on his channel, Firmaments of Heaven.
If you don't mind hitting the subscribe button if you haven't already, that'd be awesome. And if you want to hit the like button on this video as well, I see there's about 80 or so people watching. There's about 48 likes. If you wouldn't mind just kind of getting that number up a little bit, so we can get out in the algorithms a little bit more, that'd be great. And definitely subscribe to Sean's channel, Kingdom in Context, as well. And check out his amazing videos. And keep an eye out for Lighthouse. If you guys saw our little commercial break several minutes ago, Sean did a really good commercial. It was good, Sean.
Well, I didn't make it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a good, succinct commercial. Gets to the point. It's witty. And it's definitely a platform that I'm super excited for when it comes to Canada. Phase 2, I'm hearing, but I'll have to wait. I guess that's all good. But yes, Lighthouse. Keep an eye out for that, guys. And yeah, Sean, is there anything else you want to? Oh, we're not going to be doing Honor Kings next week because Sean's rather busy. So I think we're going to do it. What is it? The 8th? Where are we at here? The 6th, right?
Yeah.
That'll be the next episode, December 6th. Put that in your calendars, just in case you don't get notifications from YouTube because they like to censor people like Sean and I. So yeah.
I'm sorry, I still had this question on screen, and I was looking up the answer to this other question here. Mr. Bear is asking, did the scripture say Demon was born on Earth, so they shall remain on Earth? Yes, that's it. First Enoch 15, verses 5 through 10, I believe. So go to the book of Enoch, First Enoch, chapter 15, verses 5 through 10, and it explains angels are not appointed wives. They took wives out of their ordination, like against God's will. They had babies. Those babies with them, which were born on the earth, will not go to heaven, will not ascend through the firmament. They're stuck here because they're born. They're not born like their angelic fathers. They're born on the earth. They remain on the earth, just like the angels who are born in heaven are supposed to remain in heaven. Like that's the order of how everything was created. So that's the chapter. Go check that out, brother. But
yes, Enoch is your book to go to. Absolutely, First Enoch, that is.
Yeah. Other than that, no, I don't have any other announcements right now. You guys just let us know in the comments what other books that you would like us to look at in the future. Ken and I already have a list that we work through as far as what we consider and what we're looking at. But yeah, unfortunately, I will not be here next week. So
yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us once again, brothers and sisters. I hope you have a lovely evening. Stay safe and try to be encouraged with the gospel message.
Right.
That is something that is gonna hopefully keep you sane in these days. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and a lot of people are depressed and sad and confused about what is going on. And so I just want to give you guys just a word of encouragement to remain focused on the good news of the gospel message and the true kingdom that will offer real safety and security, not like other kingdoms that boast or claim to be able to give you that. So yes, I've been super frustrated and saddened with what's going on and all the restrictions and lockdowns and all this stuff that's going on here in Canada. But I got to be reminded of what I do teach on this channel, and that's a very, very good news. It's a great message, and at the end of the day, we get to win. So yeah, Be encouraged by that. Love you guys.
Father and Son are coming down. Be encouraged.
Yeah.
World will change forever. Thanks, guys. We'll see y'all next week.
Take care.